back with more Walking Dead World Beyond. This is episode 2 of season 1, and I'm really intrigued to see where they're going to take the story next. We had a really solid start, I think, to the entire show with the pilot episode. There's a lot of characters I'm really enjoying. There's a lot of mysteries being set up that I'm interested in kind of seeing get answered and explored across what I assume will probably be both seasons of the show. I don't know if we're going to get 100% complete story just in season 1. Season 2 is like a different thing. I feel like if they've announced in advance the show is only going to be 2 seasons, I imagine we're not going to get answers to everything that they kind of revealed and set up in this season until season 2 as well. But either way, lots to get intrigued by for me. Some big revelations coming, I imagine, as well. Some really cool twists and turns in that last episode. So I'm on board and I'm excited to see what's going to happen with our new gang of adventurers heading out to try and find Iris and Hope's dad. Whether or not they actually do find him, or if they find him alive, is another matter entirely, because there's some shady stuff going down. But I'm really interested in all of it, so very excited to carry on, see what's going to happen next. Let's get into the next one.
Straight for the brain.
The brain, not the neck.
We're not ready. You're not ready.
Yeah, I thought this was going to be a lot more badass based on how the last one ended. Well, Iris, you would be more careful. Huh. Yeah, if you can't kill it now, then you really do need to go back home. Although everyone's dead, so don't do that. Jesus.
It's not like him. That man does not take risks.
Neither do we. Look at us now. He loves his girls, you love him. And I
Maybe
love
it's
you.
not even him sending the
That's why I'm
messages.
here. The second they catch sight of it, they'll be glad they still have a home to go back to.
About that.
Okay, Dad. Get out of my house.
Wow.
Don't come back.
Father of the Year, ladies and gents. So is this happening now, or is this a young Felix? Oh, hello there.
Say we have about 15 years till we're gone.
15 years, huh?
Cheery.
Guess we're not most people.
They're gonna bond, and then it's all gonna come out about who killed whose mum, and it's gonna be a bit of a mess.
It's the blaze. We should at least see if it's doable.
You're supposed to talk about stuff like this, not the other way around.
That was a long time ago.
That was yesterday.
Exactly.
It would be
I wanna
interesting
see
if they,
regardless.
the sisters, slowly kind of switch into being more like the other one was at the start of the show.
Hope is going to be composting mulch for a year when I find her.
Just Hope? Not Iris or the others?
I was
You
gonna
think
say.
Iris is behind this?
I was
Yeah.
in Leeds for a while.
Yeah, it is a young Felix, isn't it?
I can continue Dr. Babelar's migration experiments while on our journey. Track how the empties move, merge, and break off from each other. Maybe
That is
you can
kind
help
of interesting, studying their migration. Oh damn, they made a nest in it. Oh, that's not great. Ah, hello. You go, Elton. Well, you're all gonna die.
Oh, remember how we begged Dad to build us a tree house in the backyard?
Oh, it's kind of cool.
I remember.
Make a good fort out of a treehouse. Like, walkers can't necessarily climb.
Big Mo.
Is he carrying around a bowling ball?
Big.
Come on, Silas. Loud and proud.
Big Mo!
I like how they show more respect to a bowling ball than Felix. Looks like he's going to a rave now, doesn't he?
I'm sorry, guys.
It's okay. We can drop something on it.
Big Mo!
Oh.
Oh man. Oh no. This is going to end their friendships. One of my favourite moments in the early episodes of Fear the Walking Dead is when the Clarks will play Monopoly. I guess Monopoly is the only board game that survives the apocalypse. Oh dear. Just slap it in the face. Don't try and be clever about it, just do it. Wasn't the whole lesson they should have learned the fact that they shouldn't have left it alive before?
That was my mistake.
It wasn't.
No.
Fine, say it was.
You have to work yourself up to it, I guess.
What's up, Felix?
Nothing. I just used to live around here.
Ah. Lovely. Precious memory.
I came out here to see what the world is. Start to finish. I don't intend to finish before I start.
I mean, the world seems a bit shit, so...
But if you don't clear your head, start thinking big picture, you'll end up one of these. Or worse.
Yeah, I imagine we'll get a flashback to how she got that scar.
Just let me help you get somewhere safe. We don't need your help. Come on, Mom. I'm home.
Man. I mean, to an extent I get they may be bad parents, but it's still your parents thing, but fuck his parents.
We're the last generation.
Or the endlings. As the last of a species is called. That makes us special.
What a lovely thought.
I'm lucky to know that.
I'd prefer being special in a different way.
We're the endlings.
We are the end of the world.
Tenlings, huh?
He's not gonna go off on his own, is he? Huh. Disgusting! Isn't it just as light outside as it was when they were initially like, let's wait until dawn? Well, good.
Sometimes
It's going well.
you don't get to choose your direction.
Seemed a bit like Iris's dream in the first one.
Can't see it.
We did it.
On to the next horrible, disgusting thing.
We didn't do it. Not even close.
It's putting yourself in danger, but what if he came back and she'd been eating in her sleep? He'd feel awful. Oh, did he kill his zombie parents? Oh, I feel bad for the guy. But also, your parents were dicks, so at least your dad was.
I'm going to propose something unpopular, but it might be the only something we have.
You want to send someone in as bait?
No, not as bait. More like it's bait. Yeah, but I don't want to.
It's too
at all,
dangerous
okay?
for the bait. We all came in, we all come out.
Any other ideas then?
But how?
I wanted to be brave. I wanted to be more like you.
You were brave, you're just also a
Not
bit
brave.
stupid.
Let's get some rest. We'll do better with fresh nets.
You guys are getting a lot of rest, I'm just saying. She's just super not having a good time right now. I'm forever blowing bubbles. Is she gonna be the bait? Yeah, that famously good idea to go off on your own. Well, okay, pretty good episode overall, I would say, pretty solid stuff. And they're just continuing to maybe not so much expand on the characters as much as I would have liked, but we did get bits and pieces there. But I think because it's like still early episodes of the show, they're moving plots forward in a sense, but also the fact that if the whole first season, or maybe both seasons, is just their journey to like find the dad or whatever, I don't feel like things are necessarily going to get moved along at a decent pace, I guess. Because the first episode kind of set up so many big reveals with everyone in that kind of settlement getting killed at the end, apart from obviously the kids who had left and Felix and Huck as well. So that was a big thing, like, oh, how are they going to explore that further? And then we also had the big reveal about how Iris and Hope's mum died, and how in return Hope seemingly killed Elton's mum as well. So that's another big thing, oh, how are they going to explore that? And, you know, there wasn't really any addressing that at all. I think there's going to be the build-up there because clearly they've had quite a few scenes between Hope and Elton in this episode, so I think those two are going to become quite close. And then that's going to be like this earth-shattering reveal when the truth inevitably comes out, because it's a TV show, of course it's going to come out. So there is something there that are laying some groundwork, but, you know, they were just basically walking to a big tire fire, and now they're stuck, and now Hope's gone off on her own, which she's making a bad habit of. She needs to stop doing that. Felix was doing it too, so, you know, there's a bit of stupidity all around, really. But I guess we are dealing with people who haven't quite gotten to grips with the apocalypse yet, because it's kind of all they've known, but they've also spent most of their lives, particularly for the kids, like, in that little community, and this is them really facing what the outside world is like for the first time. So, you know, it can be frustrating to just be like, well, just kill them, just kill it, you know, easy, just stab it, don't leave it alive, you know, when it's attached to a rock, just kill it there and then. And they weren't learning their lessons with that, which is kind of frustrating. But, you know, people make mistakes, and it was their first time having to actually fight walkers, or empties as they call them, kind of head on. So you've got to cut them some slack in that respect, but the fact that, you know, they had a walker like pinned down onto the tree and stuff, and then they didn't at least just finish it off just to be safe, and then they didn't kill the other walker that was chasing them, and it followed them to the tree house, and even then, when Hope went down to deal with it, she didn't actually kill it, she just pushed it down a ditch, and it's like, let's be smart about it. And I get why Felix wanted to go off on his own to kind of finish off his parents or whatever. I don't think he actually did in the end, it seemed. But, you know, he went off on his own in the dead of night. He's got a bit more training. He kind of knows how to deal with them, so that's a bit better. But, you know, he left Huck asleep and very vulnerable. You know, anything could have happened to her. So, again, some iffy decision-making for the most part for all of them. And if the kids do carry on like that, they're all going to die. So, in a sense, that's kind of frustrating, but they're also kind of learning to deal with this world and deal with the walkers and stuff. So as long as they kind of very quickly learn the error of their ways and actually kill them, I think it'll be a bit more enjoyable to watch. You know, it didn't feel quite complete, this episode, I think, is like my personal big issue with it. Maybe if they like gotten out of the whole tire fire thing and like, hey, what's next? That feels like a nice end point for the episode, but they got like halfway into it, now Hope's buggered off somewhere, and that's the end. It felt a bit like, it's a strange position to stop. It felt a bit just disjointed in that sense. And I know it's kind of a long-running episodic storyline anyway, but it didn't really necessarily set up anything else new. We got a complete arc in a sense with Felix's character in this episode, with like his backstory, his parents, which was really nice to see them flesh that out. Because again, it's kind of a mixed thing with that. I'm not as interested in the Felix and Huck kind of scenes for the most part. I much prefer staying with the kids. But at least the adults are a bit safer and know what they're doing a bit more, and they're not as frustrating. Like, why are you not just killing it? Why are you doing that? Why are you making noise in this treehouse and rolling around a bowling ball, shouting "Big Mo" or whatever it was called? So it's, you know, it's a measuring game, I guess. But regardless, I did enjoy the focus on Felix, getting some backstory about him and his relationship with, well, they say both his parents, but it was his dad, it was the only one we really saw. So I think the mum was kind of subdued and didn't really get much of a say. I think she was, you know, more a passive kind of parent in that sense, maybe scared of, Felix's father or whatever, because they didn't show her at all. But it was cool to kind of get some flashbacks into dealing with what Felix was going through on the night, kind of everything went wrong and what he was doing there, fleshing out that backstory and forming his character a bit. That was good stuff, I enjoyed that, and I imagine we'll get a bit more of that from different characters, like Huck, for example, who is very adamant, the past is the past, so I feel like maybe there's going to be a really interesting backstory for her that I'm keen to see explored. But yeah, we got a few more flashes of Hope kind of dealing with like her mother's death and her killing Elton's mother, but no real proper addressing of that, not her opening up to anyone, so it just kind of felt like a bit of a filler in that sense. And yeah, it's just kind of, that's the trouble I think with it's like this ongoing journey. But they got halfway through an obstacle and the episode ended. It just didn't quite sit right with me, I guess, that. But regardless, I liked the Felix and Huck kind of scenes. I like the bond between those two. They seem like they're really close, which I really enjoy. And hopefully we'll get some interesting backstory for Huck at some point. But I enjoyed the Felix flashbacks, just informing his character a bit. The idea of seeing how education is kind of handled when we saw flashes of Felix classes as well, even though his kids basically did not listen to those classes because they were all terrible at fighting the walkers. But it was cool to see, like, well, obviously with the world being as is, the curriculum that they teach the kids has to change because they need to add additional, like, here's how you deal with walker lessons, here's how you take out the zombies, blah blah blah. So that was cool, like an insight of if this community was to be rebuilt, if the world was to be rebuilt after the apocalypse, you would have to learn like how to deal with the walkers and stuff. So it was cool to see a glimpse of that, because that is a bit of a different thing that you don't quite get in the other shows. Because obviously this is a bit after the apocalypse has kind of started. So that was really cool. And I also really liked the scene where Hope and Elton were talking about the potential, like, the endlings and calling themselves that. That was really cool. An interesting kind of idea to play with, like, are you okay with the fact that inevitably humanity's going to wipe itself out because we don't look after our planet and, we chuck shit into the oceans and, pollution, all that jazz, everything's on fire, all this war going on. We're inevitably going to, like, get ourselves killed and wipe ourselves out, like the dinosaurs. That was a really interesting kind of plot point, and I enjoyed them focusing on that, and I think it can start a conversation with you. Like, are you okay with the fact that humanity's screwed at this point, basically? We've screwed our own planet, and inevitably I think we will be wiped out probably a lot earlier than we might have done if we looked after our planet a bit better. But it didn't feel like, we're just shoving that plot point down your throat. It's not like, look after your planet, save the world, blah blah blah, which we absolutely should have, and it's a good message, there's nothing wrong with that message, but they had that message in, but I think it was done quite subtly with that conversation, because it was more of like an interesting discussion topic, as opposed to just saying, oh my god, looking down the camera like, we've destroyed our world, here's these websites that you can go to save our planet. It wasn't like that, and I appreciated that. It felt quite organically woven into the narrative in a good way. So yeah, that whole conversation was really great. I actually think Elton's become my favourite character with this episode. He has some really funny moments. I like his kind of view of the world. Very grounded in some respects. Because yeah, Iris just wasn't ready. I'm glad she came to that realisation, but it's a bit too late now. But they just like set up the end of the first episode, like, she went to attack the walker, like, super confident, like, yeah, I'm gonna do this, and then like the first scene of the next episode she's really struggling with it. It didn't feel like it was the same scene in a way, so that felt kind of odd. But they are just kids and they've never had to face like the walkers one-on-one before, so it makes sense that they're not going to be particularly good at it. But as long as we see that progression, we see them actually learn from their mistakes. But on multiple occasions we saw that they didn't in this episode, which was a bit frustrating. But still, as long as we see it eventually, and we're going to need to see it at some point fairly soon because there's only 2 seasons of the show, but if we see that growth, I'm kind of on board for it. But we are getting some decent character stuff there. I did like them bonding over the bowling ball thing, but at the same time it felt very strange that they were doing that, and you know, they were treating a bowling ball better than any of the authority figures who were just trying to keep them safe, which doesn't paint them in the greatest light, granted. But yeah, they have a mission that they need to do, I guess. So yeah, there were a few nice character moments throughout, particularly with, I would say, Hope and Elton in their kind of scenes together. We did get a bit with Iris as well, her kind of realising, oh no, I'm not ready for this. And Silas, they still haven't really done a lot with them. So I'm hoping that he gets like a centric episode to himself some point fairly soon, delve into his backstory a bit. Because we got like, oh, you know, he kind of froze in his first chance to take down a Walker, which is completely understandable. I'd absolutely probably be in the same boat. I'd be like, well, you know, just eat me. I'm screwed. But I didn't quite touch on that as much as I would have liked later on. You know, when Hope went to deal with it, he was awake and said, oh, thank you. That should have been, you know, me. That should have been something I should have dealt with. It was my mistake. The fact he's kind of owning up to that was quite nice. Even though he shouldn't necessarily feel bad about it, because it's not like it's the 100th Walker he's had to deal with, and he's done it like so many times before, and then he just, for some reason, froze for this one, you know. So it's an understandable situation that they wouldn't be great, but they're already showing that they haven't quite learned from that, and if they keep doing that, it's just going to feel very forced, so hopefully that's not going to be the case. And yeah, just the big issue I had for the most part was it felt like we had a nice well-rounded arc with the Felix flashbacks. That kind of felt complete for an episode. It was like, good, we can expand on that past maybe in future episodes, but we did get like a whole story there. But everything else, it felt like half an episode that's filled an entire episode somehow, if that makes sense. So the fact that this episode's called The Blaze of Glory, but they haven't actually gotten through all of The Blaze of Glory yet. So is episode 3 The Blaze of Glory part 2? Or is it, you know, it felt a bit strange to end it there and Hope just going off on her own like that. I know she's got some stuff going on, she's still dealing with, you know, her mother dying and everything and all of that, but that felt very silly of her to just go off on her own. I don't know what she's doing. It also felt very strange that we knew we were going to get to that point because the episode opened with that image of her walking off on her own in the fire, and then it ended in the same way. But I feel like maybe the ending could have been a bit more powerful if we hadn't seen that bit in the beginning in the first place. So like, okay, yeah, we're here. But I was like, okay, but now we're going to carry on from that. But then the episode ended. So I was like, oh, okay, strange. So yeah, it just felt like half a storyline that's taken up a whole episode somehow. So maybe the pacing isn't great, but we do have another 8 episodes. But if they continue at this pace, I think it's going to be a bit of a slog. So hopefully more stuff's going to start happening. Because it was just a bit like them meandering, not learning their lessons or anything. It's a bit frustrating. And I feel like if Felix and Huck had walked for 2 days straight, they said, like 48 hours straight, without any sleep, they just kind of kept going, it would seem. And like those kids, like every 5 seconds, they're like, well, let's just wait until dark or wait until dawn. Let's just have a nap now. They hadn't, like, they took a lot of breaks. I feel like they would have been caught up with by now, but it's a TV show. I'm probably nitpicking a bit too much there. But yeah, I feel like I'm really shitting on this episode, even though I actually enjoyed it. So that's what I do. But yeah, overall, a solid episode. Just felt a bit undercooked to me. I liked the Felix flashbacks. I liked the idea of like the conversation about the endlings. I liked seeing how like the education system has changed in this new world to include like the walkers and how to deal with them. The Hope and Elton bond I was really enjoying. I liked all the scenes with that. I'm hoping we get a bit more stuff like that for Silas in future episodes. And yeah, just a few frustrating things about the kids being kids, but again, they're kids, you can't really change it yet. They need time to grow, and then I can look back and be like, remember when they couldn't even kill one walker and they fell down a pit like twice, both the sisters fell down. Do you remember those days? And now they can like be badass and take them all down. You know, it's about the journey, but hopefully future installments in the journey don't feel kind of half-baked like I feel like the plot of this episode did. And the plot certainly somehow dominated over the character stuff, but also there wasn't a lot of plot. It was just them walking around to and from these different places. But yeah, there were some really interesting things at play nonetheless. Some decent character moments, some slight progression in some arcs. But I think I was hoping for a bit more exploration of the big mysteries that they'd already set up in the first episode. Considering there's only going to be 20 episodes of this entire story, I feel like we should be getting more from episodes like this than we actually did. But still a really solid episode nonetheless, and maybe they just want us to get more familiar with the characters in the world and the journey before they drop any more bombshells, which is kind of fair, I suppose. But I think I can't properly judge it until we've seen the season and then the whole show as a whole as well. And we'll see how well this kind of fits. But it felt like a very odd place to end it, and a very odd choice for Hope to just go off on her own. But a lot of characters were doing that in this episode, so we'll have to wait and see where they go from here. But overall, solid episode. I think I preferred the first one, but there's some interesting stuff at play, and we'll have to see where they go with it. But that's going to be it for now. Good episode overall, and until my next reaction, thanks for watching.